Welcome to Therapy in the Great Outdoors, a podcast about the business and practice of nature-based pediatric therapy of all kinds. If you are a nature-loving therapist who works with children, this podcast will help you start taking your work outdoors into nature and help you grow a profitable nature-based therapy practice or program that connects children to nature and changes their lives and yours forever. I'm your host, the ever honest, always 100% real, Laura Park Figueroa. I have been a pediatric occupational therapist for over 20 years. But 7 years ago, I almost left the field entirely. I was so burned out. And nature-based therapy is what saved me. It reignited my love of my work, and I saw profound changes in the children that I was working with. I'm the founder of Outdoor Kids OT and the creator of the TGO approach, an evidence-based framework for nature-based pediatric therapy services. I've helped dozens of pediatric therapists start and grow successful nature-based practices through my business coaching and online programs. The latest of which is the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community, TGO for short. TGO is an online membership site with loads of resources to support you every step of the way as you start and grow your nature-based therapy work. You can find out more at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. Working outdoors with children can be a wild ride. Are you ready for the adventure? Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. This is my favorite kind of episode to do. This is the first ever listener Q&A for the TGO podcast. So I have a few questions. What I do when I do these is I put a call out on social media. I usually do it in an Instagram story. My account is at Laura Park Fig if you are not in my circles there yet. And I put a call out to say, I'm doing a listener Q&A, ask me anything, essentially. And it can be anything you want about nature-based therapy, about my life, whatever. And I have 3 questions here that were submitted last week when I posted this, and they are very good ones that I hear a lot. So I'm excited to dive into these. Okay, the first one, Jamie of Step Outside OT, her Instagram account is Step Outside OT, asked, if you're not in a season of life to grow your business, what do you suggest the priority be? The first thing that came to mind for me on this question was to work backwards. So a lot of times in the entrepreneurial space, you'll hear the term reverse engineer. And what that means is you start with the outcome in mind and then work backwards to figure out how to get there. So if you're not in a season of life to grow your business, I want you to think about, what do you want your business to be right now? So for the next quarter, 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year, what do you want your business to look like? So for example, if you are, now I'm assuming if you say not in a season of life to grow your business, you're not having big aspirations to hire a huge team and to grow significantly in the next near future, I guess I would say. A lot of times this relates to women who have young children. You're spread really thin when you have multiple young children. I know this. I went through this many years ago. And what I would say is, if you're in that season, to think about what you really do want your business to be. And one way you could reverse engineer that is to say, okay, by December of this year, I want to have a caseload of 10 clients, and I want to have hired someone to help me with admin so that you can produce more money in the business without having to do all the admin tasks. So reverse engineering your goal of where you want to be. That does not have to be related to growth. It can just be related to setting your eyes on what you actually want to do in your business and working backwards from there as to how to achieve that. So your priorities will become clear once you have the goal in mind for what you're aiming for. Now, I would say that your priorities should be, even if you're not committed to growing your business, your priorities should be getting systems in place and having help with admin. Those are two things that every business needs. And even if you're not growing, getting those systems in place early allows you to grow in the future. The foundations will be set, and then you can grow your business in the future because you'll have the systems in place to train employees once you want to do that. I do want to say that I highly encourage all nature-based practice owners to think about growth, because really the only way that you can outsource service delivery is by hiring people. And that does free up your time as the business owner to work less while continuing to bring revenue into your business. So I do think that sometimes we think about growth like it will be too much work for us, but really, if you have good systems in place and you have good employees or good contractors who work for you. Now, if you're in California, which Jamie, I think you are, you cannot hire independent contractors. That's a whole nother episode, but you have to use employees for a therapy business. So I would encourage us all to be thinking about your shift of focus. Your focus just changes when you have a team to supporting your team. It's a different kind of work than direct service delivery. So yeah, I just think you should know what you want to do in your business and not limit yourself by thinking if you grow, it's going to be more work. That's the limiting belief or the myth, I think, that many of us buy into, is that, oh, if I hire people, it's going to be so much more work. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes you're working a lot more. You have a ceiling on how much you can work yourself in a business, right? But if you have other people that are trained, that are using your systems and that are being led by you, your increase in impact and the reach that you have in your community to serve more people really exponentially increases. But it's a different kind of work. I run my private practice. I work sometimes less than 5 hours a week running my private practice. Generally, I work 10 to 20 hours a week probably, but much of my work is also in the online space. So running my private practice does not take a huge amount of time. Now, in the beginning, it did. I had a lot of systems I had to set up and a lot of forms and tools and logistics for meetings and the systems for running a team and our communication systems, all of that. I mean, those are the things I share in my paid programs because it took a long time to develop those things. And I want to save you time so you don't have to do trial and error like I did for a couple of years there so that you can grow more quickly and have those systems in place without the years of trial and error. But anyway, that was a long answer, but I hope it gave you some thoughts and little nuggets to chew on, Jamie, as you think about managing life and business right now. Okay, the next question is from Penelope. Her Instagram is PB Helms. And she asked me, what was your greatest tool in getting parent buy-in when growing your practice? So this is an interesting question because one of the things, this gets back to doing market research, right? Before you actually even start your practice or decide that you're going to go into business. I did a lot of research in my area where I was living at the time. So if you're new here, I lived in California. My private practice is still in California. And last year in 2021, my family and I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, because my husband's parents are aging and we wanted to be near them. So I am running my practice remotely from Wisconsin and I'm traveling to California a few times a year to be with my employees there. The key is that we had those systems in place, like what I was just talking about. So I was able to make that move because I have a stable business already going. So at the start, I didn't really have to get parent buy-in because I had done a lot of market research about the area where I was living. And I had lived there for many years and I knew a lot of parents that I had kids the age of the parents that I was going to be serving. And so I knew that there was a love of the outdoors in my community. I lived in a large urban area and people that live in a large urban area where I was in California, they valued being outdoors. They valued health. They valued accessing the local nature areas. And so there were multiple other forest schools outdoor programs, wilderness survival programs for kids, multiple camps that are offered during the summer that are all outdoors. And so I knew that there were people locally that really valued the outdoors. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, and I'm not so sure on this question. Maybe that's not what Penelope was actually asking. Maybe she was asking about buy-in for paying money for a service. That could be another way to interpret this question. And along those lines, the other thing that I did when I first started out was some research about what were other practices in my local area doing. And what I found out is that almost none of them took insurance. Almost all of them are cash pay. Actually, I don't even know of one where I used to live. I don't even know of one that takes insurance that is a private clinic, besides like connected to a hospital or something like that. So what I think was key in getting parent buy-in to pay cash for a therapy service was to speak their language and solve the problems that were near and dear to their heart. So really thinking about who your customer is and what do they really want out of a therapy service. The reality is, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. The reality is that the way medical insurance is in the United States, they do not reimburse for best practice, specifically in OT. But I would guess that this is in other professions too, like PT, speech therapy, and mental health. They don't reimburse best practice. That's just reality of the way that the insurance system is set up. So much of my conversation with families was talking about that, talking about how, for example, in an insurance model, you're limited to one visit per week, 30 minutes a lot of times. You're limited to not doing groups because they won't reimburse for groups, things like that. So I basically, when I was having those early conversations with families, I was talking about those things and saying how I created this practice to serve your needs as a family so that our therapists at our practice are free to serve and do what is best for your family without having to worry about whether you'll be reimbursed by insurance or whether we would be reimbursed by insurance. Because really, insurance is a medical model. It is not a holistic model. It is not a wellness model. They're not concerned about what you eat, if you get outdoors, if you're getting sunshine, if you're moving your body, like all these things that really matter for children's health and wellness. Health insurance is not going to reimburse for, or it's not a component of the therapy that they're reimbursing for. Yeah, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because I know many of us know that the insurance system is really broken. And this is coming up in my research. Actually, every person in my research who has mentioned that they take insurance has expressed frustration with the process. So I think knowing the problem that you're solving for families and knowing that you can really solve that problem for them, really help their family and their child, that is key in getting parent buy-in to pay cash for services. Another thing is that you are adding value to the therapy process by taking your work outdoors. The parents are getting like a double bang for their buck, essentially. So that's another thing to encourage them with. Okay, I hope I answered the gist of that question. I guess as I was talking through my answer, I realized maybe I wasn't sure what you were asking on that one. So feel free, Penelope, if I didn't hit on what you needed, to reach out to me on Instagram and I'll clarify. Okay, let me scroll through here to my next question. This question was from Amanda. She's amwiles1231 on Instagram. And the question was liability coverage needs and tips for finding outdoor space that you are allowed to use. So these are two questions, actually. So I will cover the liability coverage one by saying, I don't know what is required for your state or your municipality. So you have to do the research as a business owner to know what is required professionally for you, because I'm speaking to such a wide range of different professions in different areas, really all around the world, that I can't know what the requirements are for your liability insurance. So I can share what I have here, but this is going to be different for different people in different municipalities and different areas of the world. So for my practice, I carry professional and general liability insurance of up to $2 million. And it's, I think, $1 million per occurrence. I also have workers' compensation insurance, which is different than professional and general liability. And that I pulled it up here to share it with you. That is 1 million bodily injury per accident, 1 million bodily injury by disease per employee, and 1 million bodily injury policy limit. So workers' compensation insurance is generally required, I think, by most places in America, and it is different than your professional and general liability insurance. So your professional and general liability would be like if someone sued you for something wrongdoing in some way. It also serves to protect the location where you are offering your services. So a lot of times the park where we offer services will ask to be added as an additional insured on our insurance policy, and they are asking to be added to the general and the general liability insurance policy. Generally, that does not cost any money to do. Your insurance company should add them as an additional insured for free. We've never had a problem with that. Knocking on wood, or bamboo, I guess, whatever my desk is made out of right now. But it's a very simple process. You can add them to it if you have a park that you're using, and this will go into your next question actually, that wants to be added to your insurance policy. Workers' compensation is like if someone gets injured on the job and needs to have medical care that your business needs to cover. I should also add that I pay for my very part-time staff and myself. I pay, I think, $120 a month for my insurance, for my general and professional liability insurance. And then the workers' comp is based on your payroll. So if you have a payroll provider, they should integrate with a workers' comp policy and be able to just pay as you go. This is what I really love. I use OnPay for payroll, and they integrate with, I think it's called Next now. It used to be AP and TGO, but they got bought out by another company. So Next is the insurance company that does my workers' comp, and they just OnPay my payroll automatically sends the payroll for whatever period it is to the workers' comp, and they charge me based on how much the payroll was, because workers' comp is based on how many people you have, like how many hours are they working. And then that saves me at the end of the year having to do a huge audit. It used to be in the past that I had to submit a bunch of payroll documents and things to verify that my monthly amount was the correct amount. And then usually they would say, no, you didn't pay enough. You need to pay us a big whopping bill or something like that. So it's nice to do the pay as you go, because then you know you're paying the amount that is required for the amount of payroll that you have. Okay. I hope that did not totally overwhelm anyone who's not running a business yet, but these are the types of things that come up. I say all the time that a lot of times I think when we are talking about nature-based practice, we're all like, oh, we're in the woods with kids. It's so wonderful. We love being outdoors with kids. But there is to run an effective practice or a program. Much of what I'm talking about actually applies to even if you're running an outdoor program, but you work in an indoor clinic or in an indoor setting for a school, something like that. You have to think about these things. And this is a large part. I mean, only half of the work of doing outdoor practice is the actual service delivery with the children. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes that, again, you have to get systematized so that you can provide effective services for kids and your brain can be free to provide great therapy services. So, it's just a soapbox of mine that we really need to be professional and systematized in the way we're running our businesses and our programs. So to provide effective services. Okay. So I hope that answered your question about liability coverage. I do have a video that goes much more detailed into specifics about considerations when you are getting liability insurance for your outdoor practice or program. And that is inside of the TGO community. If you join, you can view it under training and resources in the free section. Okay. And, you can join the TGO community at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. Always therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com now. I'm so happy I have that website. Everything is in one place. Okay. The last question here from Amanda was tips for finding outdoor space you are allowed to use. So I would say that for this question, really, you can't sidestep the actual process of physically going to different locations to see if they would be a good spot for therapy. This took a lot of time when I was getting started, a lot. And it is specifically why in the Contigo Approach course that I sell, I have included an entire section. There's an entire module in there on environmental assessment, meaning how do you look at a nature area and what all do you need to consider to help you offer a really rich therapy experience for children when you're out in nature. So there's a checklist in there and an assessment tool that we use in my practice to look at different nature areas. When you go to a nature area, you need to imagine what it would be like to have multiple kids there. You know, there's lots of things to look at, which I can't even, I mean, it would be it's like a whole video in the Contigo course, but you have to do the work to physically go to the locations. Once you do that and you find a few spaces that could work, that you think could work, then do the work online. Or maybe this is backwards. Maybe I'm telling you backwards. Maybe do the work online first to find out which ones would allow you to use it and then go look at them. But you really have to do the digging online to find which parks and which spaces will allow you to use the space for commercial use. So there are some parks, at least we found in the Bay Area in California, that there are some parks that simply do not allow use for commercial purposes. And so we just can't use those spaces, you know? So I would highly recommend that you don't try to sneak under the radar and evade a permit process if you know that one exists, because you will get caught and you will get in trouble. So I had an experience when I first started out in one of the parks that we use in California, where I looked at the permitting process, but the permitting process was set up for large events. You know, there were questions, it was called like a special event permit, I think. And there were questions on the application like, will you use amplified sound? How many chairs will you be bringing in? Will you be serving alcohol? How many trails do you need us to mark off? Like, it was like made for a music festival or a marathon that was being run in the park, you know, something like that. And it just did not make sense for our business. So I wrongly made the assumption, and again, learn from my mistakes and don't have this happen to you. I wrongly made the assumption that we didn't need to have a special event permit because we were just a small group of 4 kids and 2 adults using the park. Well, what happened was, and I wrote a blog post about this, I can't remember the name of it, but it's on the Outdoor Kids OT website. And it's something about like, you know, my frustration about this event happening. We were playing on the edge of a lake and I had a ranger come over and get like very mad at me that we were playing in the water at the edge of a lake. And I had hung a little strap over a tree, like a low tree branch for a kid to sit in a little swing that I had set up. He got very mad about that and really like lit into me in front of the kids and demanded to see my permit. And I was like, well, we're like a small group just using the park once a week for 2 hours. We don't have a permit. And he like reported me and sent me angry emails. I mean, it was a really stressful process to go through. So evidently I should have filled out the special event permit for a large group. I don't know. Anyways, the process that happened after that was that I actually advocated higher and higher up in the organization to get an outdoor program permit created. So over the years in my conversation with them, explaining to them that our program doesn't really fit this special event application, they changed and created an outdoor program permit, which is appropriate for us. We pay $400 a year now to use the park for 2 hours once a week over the course of a school year. We're not allowed to use it in the summer. So that's a completely different permitting process. There's a summer camp permit that you have to use for that. So yeah, I share that story to encourage you that there may be systems in place at the parks that you would prefer to use that are not effective for what your business is, but to avoid the headache of getting in trouble. And I do need to say, like, the Bay Area where I lived was a very litigious place. And so I think in other areas, like where I live now in Wisconsin, like people have been so receptive and everybody I've talked to at the parks has just been super supportive. It's just very different. It's very different, and it will really depend on your area and where you live. The other thing I should say is the Bay Area is very crowded. And so I do think, in the ranger's defense, even though he was not a very nice person, and my other adults that were with me can attest to this, that they do have a very difficult job in large urban areas protecting the parks and taking care of the land and making sure that people are making sure to protect the land so that people aren't damaging it through overuse. And so I want to honor that we do need to, obviously, as nature-based therapists, we want to be protecting the earth. We want to be taking care of these spaces where we provide therapy sessions. So work with the local municipalities to get whatever permit you need. And if the permit process doesn't work for you, communicate with them respectfully and politely to change it. And so that's what happened for us. The other thing I would say is to ask local people if they know anyone who has land that you could use. Now, this didn't work for me very well in California because, again, I lived in a very urban area, like very, very urban. I had to drive 20 minutes to the local regional park. So it's definitely something that may work well in some areas, but not in others. But there are special considerations that you may make if you partner with someone to use private land. There is a mini training on this in the TGO community under resources and trainings that Angela Rosenberg of Treeline Enrichment in Florida did with me. It's a short presentation. And then inside of the Contigo course, again, sorry, I didn't mean this to be a promo for my stuff, but inside of the Contigo course, there is an extensive training that Angela offers along with forms and templates for land use contracts and things like that. So that is something that's inside of the Contigo course. If you want to take it in the future, that's a bonus that we offer with that course, because using private land has its own considerations as far as making sure everything is very clearly stipulated in a contract. A park or a city park or a regional park or a state park, they will have their own systems in place for how to use their land. But with a private business owner, a private landowner, you and the landowner have to kind of come to those agreements together and make sure that everything is outlined in a contract. So again, we have templates for that inside of the Contigo course. But if you aren't interested in the Contigo course, there's that free mini training in trainings and resources inside of the free TGO community. Okay. I am hoarse from talking so much. I need to learn how to protect my voice when I talk for a long time. I hope that these questions and my answers to them were helpful to you. I would love to support you more in your work. So we always have a podcast discussion post in the TGO community. So if you have comments or questions related to these, you can post them there, or you can post them on any of the resources I've mentioned in this episode. Now, I mentioned it last week, but I need to remind you again that the last week of July, we are opening the paid spaces inside of the TGO community for our founding members. Founding members will get the entry-level price, the price right now for life. So you will never have a price increase for the longest time that you are a member. As long as you are a member of the TGO community, you will continually have the founding member price, which will be our lowest it will ever be offered. What we are going to open is the TGO library, which will have done for you resources to support your nature-based practice or program. It will include 2 weeks of camp curriculum, our therapeutic themes framework to help you plan your own camps forever into the future. We're not going to just give you the curriculum. We're going to teach you how we made the curriculum so that you can do it forever into the future. Loads of resources there. We have some simple camp forms for you to use. We have infographics for you to post on social media or share with families about research and nature-based therapy. We have trainings there. We are going to have kind of a bonus section where there's going to be guest expert trainings. Right now, we have one in there from Chad Court Thomas, who is an excellent social worker who did a training for me and my team on a relationship-based approach to behavior. And one of the things I want to offer in this guest expert training area is really valuable trainings for you. So if you are a member of the TGO library, the paid space inside of the TGO community, then you are going to get these guest expert trainings that I pay hundreds of dollars to bring in an expert, and you get that training in the TGO community in the library. So there's that. And then we are also going to have treatment activities in that area. So our treatment plans that we created in my business, plus some visual supports for you to use in implementing those treatment plans. So we will have probably 8 to 10 of them in there to start, and then we're building out those areas because this is a membership. So we're going to be continually adding new resources so that the value just continues to improve over time. So that's the library. And then in the business hive area, that is where you can get access to me, my business coaching, the Business Bedrocks group coaching program, which I have offered multiple times in the past. And almost, I think 75 therapists have gone through that program and have given it rave reviews, like literally words like it changed my life as a business owner. Like it completely changed the business. So the point of the Business Bedrocks program is to help you set up all the things I was talking about. It's funny. I did not intend this I didn't plan this actually to be a promo for Bedrocks, but one of the things that I feel is so important is that we systematize things in our businesses so that we don't have to do the hard cognitive thinking every time we have a new thing come up in business. So anything that you can automate in your business, you should automate. And so what I did from a very early time in my business was start to develop these systems. And I poured all of what I learned into the Business Bedrocks program. And the purpose of that program is to help you set up automated systems in the areas of mindset, operations, finances, and marketing so that you have a go-to way of doing business in your business and you're not constantly overwhelmed, and so that your business can grow. You can stabilize your business and grow your business. You cannot grow your business without having systems in place. It is so key. So systems are my favorite. I love them. And inside of the TGO community, when you enroll in the Business Hive, which is kind of the worker bee area, that's why I named it that, you're going to get the Bedrocks program, but you're also going to get weekly coaching calls with me from August through November and from February through May. If you stay in the community, that's when we'll be offering those weekly calls. We'll be doing business coaching calls every week. Also inside of the Business Hive, we will have an area for private discussion about business because there are some things as business owners that only other business owners can understand. And if you are running a business and you're coming up against mindset challenges or struggling to know if you are the only one who's dealing with this problem, you know what I mean. You are not alone. I guarantee you that other business owners feel the same as you. And I want to have a private space inside of that Business Hive for us to talk about those things. So there will be an ask for feedback forum that is just for business owners that you'll get access to inside of the Business Hive. And we will have an area for forms and resources. And this is where you are going to get access to all of my templates, all of my spreadsheets, I basically lay my business bare in this area and show you if I've created something in my business, I am putting it into this area for you to use in yours because I want to save you time and energy. This Business Hive is going to be worth, every time I create something, I try to make it worth 10 times what I am charging for it. The only reason I'm not saying a price here is because on a podcast, people will listen to this for many years in the future. And so I'm just not going to say the price in this episode. You can go to the website when we open, but I guarantee you the value is 10 times worth what I'm going to charge you for it for any product I put out there. That is my promise to you. So anyway, that's what's going to be in the Business Hive. And I'm super excited. I'm just super excited about getting everything in one place for you to support your work and for me to really be able to focus my energy on serving people really well and not feeling so scattered across like Facebook and Instagram and all of the things. So I'm super excited and really just thrilled to see the new nature-based businesses that will be born and that will boom in growth after this experience together. So I'm excited, and I hope you are too. And as always, reach out with any questions to me on Instagram at Laura Park Fig, or you can connect with me in the Therapy in the Great Outdoors group. That is where you can find me. So post there in our free discussion forum, and I will reply. I will see you all next week. Bye. Thank you so much for spending time with me today, exploring therapy in the great outdoors. If you liked what you heard in this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes so we can share the magic of nature-based therapy with a wider audience of therapists who work with children who desperately need connection to nature nowadays, just like we do. If you're ready to take the next step in this adventure, join our free Therapy in the Great Outdoors community at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. The TGO community is a private space just for nature-based pediatric practitioners. We have loads of resources there to support you as you start or grow a nature-based practice or program. Our free TGO community has a discussion forum, a jobs and volunteers board, a crowdsourced treatment activities section, as well as free video trainings, research article reviews, and book recommendations from yours truly. Head on over to therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com to join today. So until next time, get outside, connect, reflect, and enjoy the business and practice of therapy in the great outdoors.